The lookout had outlasted everything. It had watched demon kings tear the sky in half. It had trembled beneath the footfall of alien warlords who wore their power like a second skin. It had endured the casual, bored destruction of gods who viewed entire civilizations the way a child views an anthill. Not with malice, but with the more devastating indifference of irrelevance. For millennia, Kami's sanctuary had floated above the mortal world like a held breath, white and pristine and eternal. Today, it cracked, not from impact, not from ki or heat, or the catastrophic pressures of divine combat. The ceramic tiles of the center courtyard spider-webbed outward in silence, their molecular bonds simply dissolving, as if existence itself had grown tired of holding this particular corner of reality together. I stood at the parapet and bled for my ears, not from a blow, from the sound of nothing. A silence so total, so weaponized, that it registered in Namekian biology as physical trauma. Somewhere behind me, Dende had fallen to his knees, both hands pressed flat against his chest, as if trying to hold his heart in place. His divine umbilical to the planet, severed without ceremony, without warning. I looked up. The sky above the lookout had stopped being blue. It had become something else. A bruised analog violet, the precise color of a star in the last moments of its dying. Not a storm, not a battle, a pronouncement. Something had woken up on Earth, and it was wearing the face of Goku's youngest son. We had been careless. Looking back now, I understand this completely. The years of peace had not made us weak. Weakness implies the potential for strength. What they had done was more insidious. They had made us comfortable. Comfortable with the idea that catastrophe, when it came, would announce itself. That it would arrive with a power level we could measure, a face we could recognize, a fight we could understand. Goku and Vegeta were beyond the orbit of Jupiter, training in the sterile, timeless void at the edge of Beerus's realm, chasing transcendence the way they always had, with the joyful, tunnel-visioned obsession of men who had made power their theology. I was meditating in the northern wastes. Gohan was teaching. Krillin was at home. The world was turning at the correct speed. Goten was taking an afternoon nap under the apple tree in Mount Paou Zoo. The old one. The one that had grown in the shadow of his father's childhood. Its roots deep as memory. It should have been a Tuesday. The first sign was botanical. The tree, centuries old, patient as stone, did not wither. It did not lose its leaves to autumn or disease or drought. It petrified, instantaneously. Every cell in the ancient wood converted to black ash in a single, silent heartbeat, as if the tree's entire history had been recalled and voided. In a 10-mile radius around the orchard, the wildlife did not scatter. Animals scatter from danger. They flee, they hide, they exercise the ancient intelligence of survival. But these animals did not survive. Their life signatures vanished simultaneously, extinguished mid-breath, mid-step, mid-song. Not killed, quieted. I felt it from 3,000 kilometers away. A vacuum where there should have been life, like pressing your tongue to the socket where a tooth used to be. I moved toward it before I had consciously decided to. The air above Mount Paou tasted of burnt copper and ozone, the flavor of a place where physics had recently been renegotiated. I landed at the edge of the dead orchard and stopped. Goten was standing in the center of it. His gi was orange and clean. His posture was Goku's posture, that same slight forward lean, that unconscious readiness that Saiyan bodies hold, even at rest. A body perpetually remembering that it is made for violence. But the ki surrounding him was not golden, not the warm combustion of Super Saiyan power. It was not the explosive, poorly banked potential of a half-blood prodigy. It was nothing. An absolute absence. A localized entropic event contained inside a 12-year-old's body. standing quietly in a field of petrified ash. Goten. My voice came out steadier than I felt. 50 years of martial discipline, of understanding and training in the deepest philosophies of combat. None of it had prepared me for the specific horror of watching someone I loved become a location. He turned. The face was right. Every feature I had catalogued over years of watching him grow. The round jaw, his father's nose, his mother's stubborn set to the mouth. All of it was intact, but the eyes had been replaced. Where there should have been dark irises full of mischief and warmth, there were nebulae, churning cosmic dust in shades of pewter and indigo, the colors of galaxies glimpsed through a telescope, beautiful and utterly cold. And at the center of each, a blue sun, long dead. Not dark, blue. The specific, aching blue of a star that has burned through everything it ever had, and now persists only as gravity, as mass, as the absence of warmth masquerading as light. He looked at me the way the universe looks at everything, without recognition, without malice, with the profound, crushing indifference of something that predates the concept of caring. This was not baby. This was not possession, not a parasite pressing against the walls of its host. Whatever inhabited Goten now had not broken in from outside. It had always been there, waiting in the architecture of his genetic code, like a letter sealed inside a wall, addressed to a date that had finally arrived. The boy was not suppressed. The boy was not struggling. The boy was simply gone. Krillin and Tien arrived within seconds of each other, drawn by the same atmospheric wrongness that had pulled me here. I tried to warn them with my eyes, with the language of posture and restraint that warriors learn to read in each other across decades. Don't, I was trying to say. Don't engage this. Don't assume this is something we can fight. Tien is a good man,
Gohan.
One of the most disciplined warriors I have ever known. A human who built himself into something divine through sheer, ferocious will. His weakness, the only weakness that matters in a moment like this, is that he categorizes problems reflexively. He saw a child standing in a dead field, radiating nothing, and his mind sorted it neatly. Illusion, or possession, or suppressed energy signature. A trick, something with a solution. He launched. The Neo Tri-Beam is not simply a powerful technique. It is a profound one. Tien channels his own life force. Not ambient ki, not borrowed energy, but the irreplaceable, finite store of his own existence, and converts it into a geometric pillar of annihilation. To use it recklessly is to subtract years from your own life. He had used it against Cell, against a living apocalypse, buying 8-year-old Gohan the seconds needed to finish a transformation that saved the world. It had worked then because it was aimed at something that could be opposed. The Kikoho struck Goten directly in the chest. The energy did not explode. It did not sear or scatter or leave a crater. It bent, like water redirected by a cupped hand. The blinding yellow geometry of the attack curved around Goten's body, graceful and horrible. And as it traveled through his proximity, its color drained away, the vivid gold dimming through amber to ochre to a dull, ashen gray. It arrived at the ground behind him as fine sand, pouring soundlessly over his shoes. Tien landed, breathing hard, staring at the sand. Krillin moved on instinct. Good instinct. The instinct that has kept a human being alive in a universe designed to kill him. The Destructo Disc is not about power. It is about physics. A thin blade of concentrated ki, its edge operating at a subatomic level. It cuts things by exploiting the gap between what matter is and what it believes itself to be. It had cut Cell. It had cut Frieza's tail. Goten raised 2 fingers. He caught the disc the way you catch a coin someone has tossed to you. Casually. Precisely. The construct screamed. Not a mechanical sound. Not the harmonic resonance of competing energy signatures. A scream. The sound of ki experiencing something it had no framework for, no defense against. Then it shattered. Not dissipated, not absorbed, but shattered into fragments that fell like black glass, reflecting nothing. With his wrist, Goten redirected the remaining discs. They stopped millimeters from Krillin's throat. Not hovering, stopped. As if someone had paused the universe and forgotten to restart it in that precise, small location. Krillin could not breathe. He could not move. Not from fear, though he was afraid, but because the air around those disc fragments had become taxonomically different air, governed by different rules. Goten was not fighting them. He was editing them, making small administrative corrections to the parts of reality they had disturbed. On a world that orbits a different star in a different galaxy, Whis stopped walking mid-step. Not paused, stopped. The effortless, fluid movement that the angel had maintained without interruption for millions of years simply ceased. As if whatever algorithm governed his body had encountered an input it could not process. His staff slipped from his fingers. It struck the ground with a sound that Beerus had never heard in all his millennia as a god of destruction. The sound of something divine being dropped without intention. Beerus turned. In all the long ages of their partnership, he had never seen Whis afraid. Beerus had assumed, somewhere in the comfortable architecture of his arrogance, that angels were constitutionally incapable of fear, that they existed in a register of being too elevated to be touched by it. He revised this assumption now, looking at Whis' face. "The sleeping god," Whis said. His voice was almost steady. Almost. "I believed it was mythology. A ghost story the Grand Priest told to the young Omni-Kings to teach them the concept of restraint." He paused. "It waits in the bloodline of a divine-touched mortal. It sleeps for generations, patient as geology. And it chooses its vessel with a precision that feels like cruelty. The second-born child. Always the second-born. The one who lives in the shadow of the first. The one the universe has overlooked." "What does it want?" Beerus asked, and he was ashamed of how the question came out. Not as the casual demand of a god, but as something closer to a plea. Whis looked at him. His violet eyes were very still. "It doesn't want to conquer," he said. "It doesn't want territory, or worship, or the satisfaction of dominance. It wants what it has always wanted, since before the first universe was spoken into existence." A pause. "It wants quiet." Gohan arrived in the way that Gohan always arrives at the moments that matter most. Not strategically, not with calculation, but with love transmuted into something catastrophic. He took in the scene in an instant. Krillin paralyzed, Tien unconscious, his little brother standing in a field of ash with the eyes of a dying star. And the thing that ignited in Gohan's chest was not tactical assessment. It was not the cold appraisal of a warrior evaluating the field. It was the oldest, most unconditional fire, the one that burns in anyone who has ever loved a child and watched something else look out from behind their eyes. "What have you done to him?" The transformation was not a slow burn. It was an eruption. Silver-white hair like a crown of thorns. Aura flaring in colors that had no names in standard physics. Magenta, violet, the electricity of something that had come from beyond the tournament stage, from beyond anything Gohan's body should have been capable of reaching. The landscape reacted. The floating ash became ash storms. The dead earth cracked open in long geological fissures that had nothing to do with physical impact, and everything to do with the sheer informational weight of that much power coming online in one body. Gohan hit Goten with everything he had. The shockwave was continental. Clouds parted in a radius of hundreds of kilometers, revealing that bruised violet sky in its full, terrible extent. The ground at Ground Zero became geography. New valleys, new ridgelines. The casual rearrangement of terrain by energies that should have been in the territory of gods. When the light cleared, Goten stood exactly where he had been standing. Gohan's fist was in Goten's palm, not blocked, not redirected, caught. The magenta lightning of Beast Gohan's aura was streaming into Goten's skin like water into sand. Not violently absorbed, not repelled, simply received, incorporated. The rocks around them had stopped falling and started rising, slowly, like a question forming in the physical world. Goten looked at his brother. "Too loud," he said. The voice was geological, the voice of tectonic plates negotiating continental drift, the voice of the moment before a galaxy's last star goes cold, and the universe holds what remains of its breath. He extended one finger, index, the same finger Gohan had used to point at stars through the window of their childhood home, counting them with Goten on his lap. He pressed it to the center of Gohan's chest, not to his sternum, not to his keynote, not to any physical location that can be found on a diagram of Saiyan physiology. He pressed it to the concept, to the idea of what Gohan was, to the specific, irreducible fact of his inner beast, that sleeping volcano of potential that Gohan had spent his entire life struggling to reach, and then struggling to control, and then, finally, choosing to accept. The silence that pulsed outward was not a sound. It was the absence of all sound, propagating through matter the way a crack propagates through ice. Instantly, perfectly, inevitably. Gohan's aura froze. Not extinguished, frozen. The magenta lightning turned black and held its position in the air for one impossible moment. A photograph of power, before disintegrating into particles that were neither matter nor energy. Gohan's eyes returned to their natural color. He felt himself falling before he understood that he was falling. His body failing to receive the signal that it was special, that it contained something extraordinary, because that signal was gone. Not suppressed, not weakened, locked behind a door made of primordial ice, and a part of himself he could no longer feel. He hit the ground on his knees. He tried to breathe and succeeded, but the air tasted of absolute zero, of the temperature of space between galaxies. He had not lost a fight. He had lost a self. The battlefield was a testament to a kind of defeat that has no martial tradition. No doctrine prepares you for losing to apathy. No training anticipates the specific horror of an opponent who does not want to win. Because winning implies a game, and this was not a game. The Z-Fighters lay scattered through the ruins of Goten's childhood. Krillin, Tien, Gohan, broken not by violence, but by the weight of being acknowledged, and then dismissed. Moths shown the shape of the sun, and left to fall. Goten stood among them and did not look at them. He looked up, through the bruised atmosphere, through the thin layer of air that separates the mortal world from vacuum, through the indifferent dark between stars. His dead blue eyes traveled the distance that light measures in years, and found, at the end of that impossible gaze, the edge of a divine realm where two Saiyans were chasing the next threshold of godhood. On Beerus's planet, Whis would later report, every instrument of divine measurement simultaneously registered an event without precedent. The ceiling of measured power had not been broken. It had been recognized as a floor. Above the gods, above the angels, above every hierarchy of strength that the multiverse had spent its existence constructing and worshiping and fighting over, there was an attic, dark and vast and old. And something in that attic had just opened its eyes. The question that the angels whisper to each other in the spaces between universes is not tactical. It is not, can Goku defeat this? Every force of destruction has a counterforce. Every ceiling, until now, has had a ceiling above it. The mathematics of escalation, at least, were familiar. The question they whisper is quieter than that, more human in its way. When Goku arrives, when he comes home to fight for his son and his world and everything he loves with the last full measure of what he is, will he be able to see it? Will he look into those dead blue sun eyes and recognize, beneath the nebulae and the silence and the weight of something that predates existence, the boy who used to fall asleep on his chest? Or will he fight a monster while his son watches from somewhere inside the dark, too far away and too quiet to reach? Some silences, once established, are not broken. They are only joined.